Hi guys, I'm Katie Roome from Periapsis Press.
And I'm David Roome.
And today we're here with Patrick from Cave to the Cross.
Howdy, guys. I just had enough time to shower, so I'm working on my Matt Walsh beard. So there's never been a good anime story, and Japan has never done anything as far as storytelling. There.
And Phantom Menace sucks.
Yeah, that's why you've seen it twice.
So today, I think it was today, Matt Walsh commented on a video that's I think has been circulating before he put it up, because I feel like I saw it unconnected with him initially. And the video is of a woman listing the things that she doesn't do for her husband, and she doesn't lend herself to like being likable. But Matt Walsh said that it would have been quicker and simpler for her to say, I'm a bad wife and a selfish person. And so we thought that we would look at the video and talk a little bit about it and about whether or not we agree with him. Spoiler alert, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get Patrick's input. What if he agrees with Matt Walsh,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll just have a nice time.
I think maybe more so than some other things that we talk about. At least for me, this is kind of a discussion about like what the right way to communicate something is, and that's very subjective.
Sure.
But it's interesting to talk about. I find this kind of public dialogue amongst Christians about relationships and whatnot to be interesting. It's something that we all can speak to from experience, since all of us here are married, so we're not talking out of our butts about something that we have no experience with. And it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I find this stuff interesting. It's interesting to talk about on Twitter, and Matt Walsh is just an easy target. So
we've picked on him before.
Yeah.
And we
picked on is the wrong word, because he has a giant platform. He's hugely famous. You
guys got to punch down. Stop punching
down.
Yeah.
We mostly have disagreed with his opinions about anime, video games, generally fiction, good fun, but when we talked about that in our video where we looked at what he said about video games and about anime, we were looking at how he communicated those things and sort of deciding whether or not it was humor or if he was being genuine on any level. And we at that time landed on he was being genuine, more than humorous. And I think
even given his long response video where he was kind of like trying to make it sound more like he's joking,
right?
And like, we believe, like with Matt Walsh, there's a level of dishonesty to the things that he does, which is, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different case, because I think it would be harder for him to sort of pull the "I was joking" card, which I'm curious to see if he does some kind of follow-up discussion about this video. I sort of suspect that he will, because it was a big meme the other day, and maybe he's done it already. I don't know. We're not subscribed, so this might be something that we come back to if a longer video of his thoughts about it surface. But I think we wanted to also interact. We wanted to interact with the original video.
Yeah.
And kind of share our opinion about it, because I had some opinions about it, before I saw Matt Walsh interacting with it.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with reading or fiction or science fiction fantasy. But since it does have to do with our values.
Mhm.
We think that it's an appropriate discussion topic for the channel.
Yeah. And we talked about these kinds of like relationships and marriage and red pill stuff on our streams before.
Yeah.
Here and there. Usually not as a specific stream, but like I said, it's something that we think is kind of interesting and
Yeah.
everything. So
Any
yeah.
thoughts so far, Patrick?
We're gonna fix everyone's marriage tonight, or get people
Yep.
married. So
Yep.
I do always say that the ultimate proof that God exists is that I'm married. So just saying, you know, miracles can happen.
Okay, should I bring up the video?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna do it right on Matt Walsh's tweet.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any more. I'm gonna just double check right now and see, because I know I replied to the original one.
Yeah, that's why everyone should subscribe to David's Twitter, because that's how I originally saw it. So he's up on my recommends more than Matt Walsh's.
Yeah. Yeah, the original one was 1:55.
Yeah.
long, so
Okay.
we're good.
All right. Well, get rid of that. Okay.
A few weeks ago, I said I don't do my husband's laundry. And a lot of people are saying, whoa, 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 those are small acts of kindness. Why wouldn't you want to do that for your partner? But here's the thing, small acts of kindness that are mostly domestic labor just add up to work at the end of the day. So here's a list of things that I don't do for my husband. You all know I don't do his laundry. He can do that himself. I do my laundry and we do the kids' laundry, but he does his own. I don't cook dinner. He cooks dinner every single night. I do breakfast and lunch for us and our kids. I don't pack him a lunch. If he's hungry, he'll figure out what he's going to eat for lunch the same way that I do. I don't make his doctor's appointments because guess what? He's not making mine. Would it be kind of me to do that? For sure. Is it my job? Absolutely not. I want him to be healthy, but he's a grown-ass man and he can book his own appointments, right? There's a lot of things that I don't do for my husband. I don't schedule his haircuts. I don't pack his clothes for vacation. Right? I don't do those things. I don't buy him new underwear when it's got holes in it. All of those are things that he's a grown man and he can do himself. Can I do small acts of kindness for him? Of course I can. And I do. I see a vinyl that I think he's going to like because he's creating a vinyl collection. I buy it. I'm at the store and I see something that I think he might enjoy eating. I buy it. I find a new non-alcoholic beer that he wants to try out. I buy it. Right? Those are small acts of kindness. Doing his laundry, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, booking his doctor's appointments, all those things, that's domestic labor. Those are chores. Those are not acts of kindness. Do I do them occasionally when he's working a lot? Of course. Do I cook dinner sometimes when he's had a really long day? Of course. But me not doing that does not mean that I don't show him love or kindness. They're different things. It is not my job as a wife. It is not in my job description to do all the domestic labor as small acts of kindness to my partner and receive nothing in return. I agree with this commenter. If it's going both ways, fantastic. But oftentimes domestic labor, especially when you have children, adds up. And so no, I am not my husband's personal secretary or his personal assistant. I am none of those things. I am his partner. I am his equal. And I do not have to do things to cater to him and serve him at all times to be kind and loving for him.
And let's just be clear here what the original comment was. So it says, what you're essentially saying is never do any acts of kindness for your partner. If you're in a healthy relationship, your man should be doing these things with you/for you and not expecting it from you. Yeah, and it's hard to say what that original context was. It's a little weird that the comment said something like, your man should be doing this with you and for you, but you shouldn't be doing it for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna give that commenter the benefit of the doubt and say they meant mainly with you. Yeah, so I mean, what is the upshot of what she's saying? I think that she's saying that we want to, like, I think she's responding to a concept that, okay, like, you should, as a wife, do all these chores for your husband because that is being kind
and loving.
and loving. And as a wife, you should be kind and loving.
It's almost a separate issue from is it your responsibility as a
Yeah.
wife to do those things?
Yeah.
Um,
Because and I think she's making that distinction because she probably agrees that it is your responsibility as a wife to be kind, right? So she's kind of saying, she's making a distinction. She's saying, no, these things are chores. They're not acts of kindness. So you can't say, oh, as a wife, you should be doing them, because if you're not being kind. They're
Sure.
just chores.
yeah, I think she is differentiating between domestic labor, chores,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that she does out of kindness and love for her husband.
Yeah. More like sort of charitable acts,
Right.
or like undeserved kind of grace.
Mm-hmm. And maybe another way of talking about it would be to sort of say, like, these things are not inherently my responsibility. They're to be divided up however we as a couple see fit. And not doing them doesn't mean that I don't love him. Not, in such a way that I am not neglecting the responsibilities that we've agreed that are mine, but not doing the things that we've agreed are his responsibility does not make me a bad wife.
Mm-hmm. Is that your read of her original video, Patrick?
Actually, I take almost the opposite approach.
Really?
Excited.
Yeah.
Good.
Because I feel like she's talking past herself a lot of times, because it seems like if there seems to be this division of labor in the relationship, but there are things she won't do. Like if it was just a division of labor, like so I do dishes and my wife cooks.
Mhm.
She hates getting the smell of dishes around her, and I need the dishwasher to be exactly perfect because I played Tetris way too often as a kid. And so even my kids, I'm like, I just got to go watch tablets. It's fine. It's fine. But so there's that division of labor. But it seems like when it comes to like laundry, you just throw everything in, and it's weird that there's like, well, he's got his, and then I've got mine and the kids, and that might
Katie
make
commented
sense
on
in
that.
a type of relationship, but it just seems like you just throw everything
Mhm.
in. And the fact that she refers to things as like domestic labor is very like feministy
Mhm.
terminology of like, oh well, if you added up all the unpaid labor that stay-at-home wives do, it would be $32 gajillion, and
Yeah.
we would spin the earth counterclockwise with the amount of cash we could print out with it. It's that, like, no, like there's just the relationship and the thing to make the household continue to survive.
Mhm.
Like so it seems like she still has like this she takes care of the kids in some ways, but also it seems super weird. Like I've never had my wife make my doctor's appointment unless if I'm like dying or sick or something along those
Mhm.
lines, where it's like I can't physically speak, or
Mhm.
like going out and buying new clothes, like the whole underwear thing. Like yes,
Mhm.
there's that, but like then the things that she brings out are very small. Like those are like the acts of love thing. Like, oh, if my wife saw a War of the Worlds book that I didn't have and she bought it, like, oh, that's very sweet, that's very cute. But it's not like it's not a job or a chore, and that's a separate category I'm getting from this couple. Like I think I mentioned it in our offline conversation. There was a video where the guy, or maybe it was the it was just a chore chart, and if he had chore charts, then he would get like sexual favors as reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one mostly felt like, all right, I'm pretty sure that's your kink and not like this is
Yeah.
like training my husband. Uh, I think those people were just living it out exhibitionistly. But this feels kind of along those lines, where it was like, no, we I'm doing this stuff and he's doing all this other stuff, and those things seem weird to do. But also,
Mhm.
like, okay, she cooks breakfast and lunch, but
Mhm.
then he's got dinner. Like that seems
Yeah.
fine. But within the full context, I'm like, no, this is then that's his domestic labor, right? This is
Yeah.
your responsibility. If you don't have this, if he's having a tough day, like that's the thing. But if like my wife tends to do the laundry, but if she was like, hey, can you start a load of laundry? Can you do the laundry today? Yeah, that's not a problem. That I would never go on TikTok and make a thing about this. And first of all, TikTok is Canadian and communist, so because that's where all the communists are now.
So you bring up a lot of interesting points, and I think I have some things to say about them. So
can we quick say hi to
the
chat?
yeah, we should say hi to the chat.
Hi to Andrew Meredith and Doug Wise, who thought this stream was an elaborate joke.
Yeah. Oh no, it's no joke.
I thought he was joking at first too when he first tagged me, David, and I was like, we probably could. And he's like, well, why don't we? And we were talking between ourselves, and we decided that we had some nuanced things to say about it. So, and we thought we'd invite Patrick, and he has a slightly different opinion from us. So this will be fun.
We're gonna break up our marriage relationship.
I think yeah, and like it's fun to talk about things when you have little differences of opinion.
Yeah.
Like I think all of us are kind of overall on the same page about this stuff, but it's fun to debate. Like how did you understand what she was saying and everything? Because I think that's more interesting than what Matt Walsh says. But I think some of those differences are going to play out in what we each take issue to Matt Walsh for saying.
And we know what the red pill alpha community is going to say is, if she's not like clipping his fingernails every night, then she's a terrible wife, and he should dump her and get with 16 supermodels, even though he's probably a 4 at best out of her 5 on a good day.
Yeah, I mean that's probably characteristic of like the kind of modern like extreme red pill stuff. I like the term red pill still because I got into that stuff like 10 years ago when it was a little bit more nuanced and reasonable and not just a complete caricature of itself. And I think even a red pill person would like that. So myself basically would not agree with that. Like they would say, yeah, I mean, being an alpha male isn't about forcing your wife to do domestic labor. It's about being a good person. And maybe sometimes that involves demeaning your wife in certain ways for her edification. But it's not about like getting out of doing the work that you're supposed to do, right? And that was something that I kind of appreciated about what she said, is like she seems the sort of like dismissing of chores as this undesirable domestic labor that nobody wants to do was not so good. But I do appreciate the fact that she sort of seems to have this nice working relationship with her husband where there's like a very clear understanding of who is responsible for what. And I think that is very red pilled, right? Like
it's good communication.
Yeah, good communication. And I mean, what is what is leadership or being the head of a household? Whatever way you want to describe being a sort of an appropriately Christian like alpha male in a marriage, if not communicating and delegating responsibility, not just shirking it and letting your wife pick it up, but like having clear expectations and understanding and working together on things, right? Nice.
And
Douglas is here. Hey John.
Yeah, we do see that in Acts, right? That was the formation of the deacons. It was there's responsibilities that are of a certain level of importance for the elders and the apostles, and they went out and chose men of good repute and these list of qualifications, and then they set them about to having the domestic labor of the church, and they could concentrate on one thing, and they could concentrate on the taking care of the widows and making sure that it wasn't just the Jewish widows that got taken care of, but also the Greek women as well. And so we do see that within the confines of the relationship between God and man, and then man and his family, and then we see it even in the church as well. So there's a place for that, and it's done orderly and in love. And in fact, if you look at just the distinctions between elders and deacons, really the only difference between the two is one has the obligation and ability to teach in the church, and that's pretty much it. And then what you do is you start at deacon, and then you upgrade to elder, and soon you're the head pastor, and then you retire, and cycle starts over again. Yeah, but no, sorry. For Josh, he's got to be the youth leader, and then you graduate up to associate pastor, and then pastor. Yeah,
and then when you're a pastor, you split the pastor duties with your wife.
Yeah, she's the drama leader. Yeah. How many more smoke machines do we get in the house? Yeah.
Just something else, Patrick, that you brought up about like you were surprised some about their division of labor, and then how she was describing some things. So
yeah,
I will admit, like, I probably could take on more domestic labor in our marriage. But there's a couple of those things that she mentioned as like I don't do that Katie does do for me. So she often does make appointments for me. Not like for haircuts, because you
can do those online.
Yeah. But like for stuff like a doctor's appointment, or taking the car in, or scheduling, different things.
Yeah.
She often does that for me. And like the reason for that is like my work is very like mental work, and little distractions add up. So it's like a great boon to me in my job to be able to sort of go into a day and be able to work without thinking, okay, now I've got to stop, potentially multiple times to like be able to like call somebody and get a hold of somebody and make an appointment, so that's something that she does.
Well, especially when you're at work, trying to make an appointment. If you get interrupted by a coworker, well, you need to hang up and address your actual job, right? Like, so it's just weird.
And I normally am working during the hours when you can make appointments.
Isn't
and
that
stuff.
The stupidest thing?
Yeah,
like,
that's why third shifters are the best. and they can show up to podcast in the chat as well.
Yeah. Whereas Katie's sort of job is taking care of the house and watching the kids during the day. And there's a lot of times when like she's watching the kids, it's not something that she can ever focus on anything while she's doing. So that's kind of
all she does is eat the bonbons, open up a book. That's all she's doing. I've gotten to 1950s in my movies, so I'm sure continuation will happen. There's nothing that will happen in the 60s. but I feel like, okay, so you don't make your doctor's appointments. I do. I might get after might have gotten after by my wife to make an appointment or something along those lines. But the tone of voice that she takes is almost synonymous with what we see from any libs of TikTok or any of those type of videos that have that same cadence of like my husband and I, we're 50-50, we're partners, we don't have this type of relationship, we're 50-50, and what I do is I tell him everything that I want to do, and he does everything else 50-50. So it just has that like that tone to it, where if she's like, hey, my job is like what you're saying. I when you were explaining that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and
Mhm.
that works for you guys.
Mhm.
I'm sure you guys have talked about that, or
Mhm.
you've kind of fallen into that routine where then it becomes just those little things that your kids will one day ask you, like, why does dad drive the car and not mom? Or why does mom drive the car and not dad?
Mhm.
Well, dad
Mhm.
works third shift and we don't want him to crash because he's tired and he can take a quick 3-minute nap before church, and then he's good. So, but those are ones where you're not gonna hop up on TikTok, and maybe that just the medium is getting in the way of the nuance of the
Yeah.
conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and as far as division of labor, um, like I don't talk about this with
Mhm.
people. I was telling David earlier, right? Like
Mhm.
one thing that I care a lot about is the driveway during the winter, and I get this from my dad. I
Mhm.
scrape that thing clear,
Mhm.
and I do it. That's one thing that I do. As soon as
Mhm.
it snows, sometimes while it's still snowing, I go out
Mhm.
there. And the last couple of
Mhm.
years, I finally got a snowblower, but
Mhm. But
like I care about that,
yeah.
right? So it's my job.
Mhm.
I never mow the lawn.
Yeah.
So like,
Mhm. And you know, Katie could mow the lawn.
mhm,
She just
I've done it when
I
I was
don't
in high school
yeah,
and stuff.
I don't think you've done it since we've been married.
Mm-mm.
But see, like, I like mowing the lawn. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't always like with any chore or job, you don't always want to do it. But like mowing the lawn is something, as far as chores go, that is something that I appreciate and
Mhm.
I enjoy doing. And I sort of have a certain way I want it done.
Yeah.
And same with shoveling the driveway
Mhm.
for Katie. If Katie said I don't want to shovel the driveway, I would do it, and I would not do it to the standard that she does, because I don't care about doing it to that
Right.
standard. I would do like my dad does and
Pack it down.
pack it down by driving back and forth and clear the end by driving through it with my car, which has very good traction. So like that, so we just have different values there. And then there are other jobs around the house that we split, or
Mhm.
you know, we take turns doing, um you know, or one person ends up doing more than the other, not because, but that's just
Right.
what we do. Like you, when we're getting ready for, like, in the house to have people over, usually you do most of the vacuuming and dusting,
Right.
but I will clean the bathrooms.
Mhm.
Right. And I don't think either of us really likes
Doing either of
doing
those
either of those
things.
things, but that's
Right.
just what we do. Right.
But like, uh, once my coworkers found out that I shoveled the driveway, and at the time I was pregnant with our first child,
Mhm.
and they were scandalized and horrified. And it's like, well, like all you're seeing is one piece of our marriage, right? And like you don't see like the 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 division, right? Like there are things that I handle that David doesn't, and there are things he does that I don't, and that's so yeah. She strikes me as a very irritating person who I probably would not get along with face to
Right.
face.
Yeah. I'd
But
want to do my own laundry too, so that it's not mixed in with gold, so I'm not being poisoned by her.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about this. Like, there's any number of reasons why somebody might want to do
yeah.
their own laundry. You know, like, say the reason that I imagined is, you know, I imagine they're both working professionals, because that's how so many people are these days. And
Mhm.
imagine that they have little kids, and maybe he doesn't like the idea of having his business clothes, his dress shirts that he wears, mixed in the wash with little kids' pee pants, you
Yep.
know, and
Yeah.
he that just bothers him. So he wants it done separately. Like, we're thinking, oh, why don't you just toss it all in together? And he's thinking, I just really don't like the idea of tossing it all in together, and I'd
Mhm.
rather just do it myself, you know.
But I feel like if and I would definitely agree with you that we could come up with a whole list of things.
Mhm.
But
Right.
I mean, don't you think she would have mentioned, like, listen, my husband's very particular on how he wants his
Yeah.
dress shirts done, and it's the tone, and it's that, like,
Yeah.
nope, sorry, that's domestic work. I don't
He's
get
a
paid for that.
grown-ass man.
Yeah.
We are.
Well, and that's
I slay the orcs and he hoists me up on the sword. That's the division of labor is there.
and that's kind of my main issue with what she's saying is like, in my opinion, what she's saying is a very common sense thing. Like, it makes sense to, and I mean, we can debate this, but to me, it makes sense to sort of draw a distinction between chores and gifts, right?
Sure.
That's
Sure.
just a distinction that on some level, in some way, is a sensible distinction to make.
But I think that distinction was brought out because she needed something to be like, no,
Yeah.
seriously, I love my husband. I buy him the non-alcoholic beer that he likes or hasn't tried before.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, unless if you're a recovering alcoholic,
Mhm.
you that seems like a weird thing.
Yeah, I
He
agree.
has this vinyl thing. Like, okay,
When she said vinyls, do you think she meant records or Funko Pops?
No, because she didn't say for his man cave. She'd have to add that to man cave.
But anyway, I hear what you're saying, Patrick. But my take on the whole thing was, I don't really disagree with what she said. It's the way that she said it. That kind of patronizing,
and I'll agree with you on that.
Talking down, stating something that I know we live in a world that's messed up, but this is kind of obvious, right? Like, communicate with your spouse about how you split the chores, right? You don't need to talk down and use that tone of voice and have the vocal fry and everything on TikTok like it's like you're lecturing everybody about it. That was my main issue. Not that fundamentally there was something wrong with what she was saying.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you on that for sure. Yeah.
And I thought that her attitude was disrespectful towards her husband, but that's mostly a difference between her and I as what we see our relationship being, where she's like, we're partners, like we're equals.
We have sex every tax day, whether we want to or not.
I would not ever say to like my boss, that's not in my job description. You can write your own damn emails, right? Like, that's you're a grown ass man. Write the letter yourself, right? Like, and when I was working, like, my boss would regularly come to me and ask me to do those things. And part of it was because he knew I could write a letter, right? And the other thing was, like, he was busy doing other things. But like, that's like, I understood that, right? And that was part of working together, being a team player, right? Like, helping out. But it didn't really have to do with like an act of kindness either. Like, I think that's kind of an interesting distinction that she's making. Earlier when we were talking, David pointed out that, like, no one ever says that a man should go to his job as an act of kindness.
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah, and when I say no one, I mean no one, not even like right.
Not even the red pill.
People,
the red pill guys are like, I'm a bricklayer. Even though I stream for 12 hours a day, I do back-breaking work, and I come home, these hands are callous from the chain smoking that I've been doing on stream because it's my thing. And I want to go home to nothing but quiet from the kids and quiet from the wife nagging. Oh, I don't want to hear nagging. And this is just that version in female form. For division of labor. We're all communists here. Equality. Listen, yeah.
Let's see. Andrew Meredith says,
did you catch Timo?
Oh yeah, hi Timo. My takeaway watching is that she effectively reveals in her statement that she is a gifts love language, and if her husband is a works, she doesn't compute that gift of his. It's hard because, like, we don't know anything about her husband, but like, it's easy to make that assumption.
This is like a second video, and the first one seems to be her responding to her mentioning that she doesn't do her husband's laundry. And I feel like this would be the ones where it's like, Hey everyone, when I said I didn't do my husband's laundry, it's because he's very particular about it, and he has to dress to the nines to
Right.
two little old ladies from getting hit by buses, and my husband stands on the front line every day so that you can ride a bus that an old lady got hit by. You need him on that wall, but that's not what we get here.
Right.
Yeah.
Doug says, I thought non-alcoholic beer almost put it into the range of parody, but it might kind of mean there's a backstory and an edge to summary decision making on family responsibilities. Yeah.
Listen, we had 2 children for a reason. That's why I go non-alcoholic beer now. Well, and like here's a thing that that maybe I could if I was being critical of my take, if she were to come out and say, listen, we homeschool our family because we view it as literally the best thing ever. But I think more husbands should get involved with the education of our children. It shouldn't just be a wife only thing. Like the fathers contribute a lot to the discussion. They can offer different things. There's new conspiracy theories that our children need to learn, and the husband is there perfectly for that. I might be reaching too personal there, but so if she had that type of mentality, like my husband, he comes home, he's had a long day, and I feel for that. But I could really use someone to explain algebra to a 4th grader, like that would be super helpful, and that's his job. It'd be great, but he just doesn't do it, and it would be nice to. So if I viewed that video, I think I would have a different reaction to what I'm seeing here. So maybe it is more tone than what the messaging is, and Matt Walsh swaying me with his devilish eyes of beard and faciness. Also, men should be more involved in the education of their children, just not just their shifters who have the time.
Andrew says, communicate the best way for your spouse to show you love, and then make the effort to do so for each other. Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think too, separating the essence of what a chore is from like the acts of love and kindness, language kind of emphasizes the responsibility angle for me as well, because it's not hitched to emotion or to like benevolence. I like a lot of the things that I do in my life are out of a motivation to cultivate a nice home. And yeah, you could say that is love and kindness, but I'm not doing it in a way that where I feel like I am bestowing something on the members of my family as much as I am working towards a goal that I think is important.
And when you say cultivate a good home, I think there's some embedded more than just the 4 walls and the clean carpets, right? Like you mean the beneficiaries of everybody inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's where the Christian worldview comes into play here, because that not that no one can have a good marriage outside the Christian worldview, although that's absolutely true, and you're borrowing from my worldview to make it a good good one. But like that's the fact that you're not living solely for the other person is allowing you you forgive others because you were forgiven much, and so you understand that relationship to God, and so you now have to understand when someone cuts you off in traffic, you don't have to blow up at them, and that's such a small thing, and then you find out that if you weren't late by 2 minutes, the the person would have driven through the red light and you would have been right there.
Mhm.
And you know, that's a big, I absolutely see this, but you know, it's like, oh, someone's gotten in my way. Oh, well. And it just, it allows you to grow and have that, kind of, be able to flake from the anger, for forgiveness. And so, when you're living for somebody else, as in God through Jesus Christ by the power of the Holy Spirit, then the relationship that you have with your wife and or husband is then, more magnified, because there's not just two of you in that relationship, or two of you and whatever children. There's someone, who has an ideal relationship and who has ideal love, and you're both striving for that. And it's like that, the idea of the triangle where you're both at the sides. The closer you guys get to God, the closer you become. And so it's not like a, oh, he loves God more than me. I hope he loves God more than me. I hope my wife loves God more than me, because that's how we're going to become closer, because that's how that relationship works and why it's important to all of us. And so
Mhm.
that's the home portion of it, not just the house.
Right. I think the way that she talked about, like, her language was like, I'm not doing domestic labor and getting nothing in return. And I think that was probably my biggest, like, cue that she seemed to think that it was like a give and take situation, as opposed to something that she viewed as a value of her own. What would you?
Sorry.
Okay.
I missed that.
Like when she said that she wasn't doing domestic labor and getting nothing in return, that sort of said to me that she was viewing chores and the, menial tasks, right, as something that needed to be a give and take situation, and not in the service of her own goal of.
Well, no,
like
I
her
think
own
that's kind of
values.
an uncharitable
You think so?
reading of it. I mean,
So now we got three different distinct.
I think that's a little uncharitable, because, I mean, I don't want to over spiritualize homemaking or whatever.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it really probably doesn't matter a ton who makes the appointments for the husband, or who buys underwear from Walmart.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I
so,
agree, but
so I maybe doing it without getting anything in return is a little bit uncharitable on
Sure.
her part, but whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
She didn't seem vindictive about having the kids either.
yeah,
That's
which
true.
I think is, you know, maybe she wasn't thinking about it to be angry at it at the time, but you know, she's like, I take care of the kids. I feed them breakfast and lunch, and then my husband does dinner. And there's nothing where she's like, and he has them on the weekends. Like, it's always
Right.
like we're divorced, but you know, in the same house type deal. I just need a mom day. I just need to be me. And that's when we go through 2 bottles of wine.
yeah,
That's only for stay-at-home moms. We know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is like a not even 2-minute
Mhm.
video, and we're like
Mhm.
pulling it
Yeah.
apart.
And I mean, I think, again, you could sort of say, well, okay, she's listing these things that she does for her husband as justification for her bad behavior, or whatever. Or it's like, oh, it's nice that she gives her husband gifts. And I mean, maybe gifts is her love language, but maybe it's her husband's.
Mhm.
Like maybe I know for me, gifts are my love, like one of my love languages. I
Mhm.
really like when people get me presents. I'd honestly rather people buy me presents than do work for me a lot of the time. And I can picture myself being her husband and really appreciating that kind of
Sure.
stuff. So
It really depends on her husband, right? And like the
yeah.
conversations that they've had in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I still wouldn't TikTok video that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
Yeah, and I mean that's I think just circling back, that's just my biggest complaint about her
mhm,
presentation is just maybe the tone and the format of it.
mhm.
You know, I mean, honestly, even just having we've been talking about this for 45 minutes, and
Yeah.
I feel like we're not just we haven't just said the same stuff over and over again. We're
Mhm.
having like a meaningful conversation about this. It's like even just this idea is a topic that you can say a lot about,
Mhm.
right?
So like when it comes to you guys, and maybe you're so far along now that you're set, but like starting out, did you guys have like a conversation, or did it just happen to fall like here are your job duties, or did David like create the chart and he was like, here I've created the matrix, plug your desires in here and we'll graph it out. Like how did you guys split the division of labor?
So when we were first married,
Mm-hmm.
um, I wasn't working for a bit, and then I got a job, and I worked for a while. And there was another period of time where I wasn't working, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly during those periods of time, I would pick up more of the chores.
Yeah.
But at the time, we didn't have kids, and
Mm-hmm.
a clean house was very important to us.
Yeah.
So
And you were working
part-time.
part-time.
Yeah.
So there's only been a small bit of our marriage where you were working full-time and
Mhm.
we didn't have kids.
Yeah.
Just to say something in general though, you know, again, and I'll own up to like maybe not always holding up my end of the domestic
Mhm.
labor bargain. But I think for Katie and I, we have sort of a shared value that there are things in our life that are more important than chores. And maybe like small frustrations with chores. And I think we both have different frustrations there.
Mhm.
But like small frustrations with things that we would classify as chores are not nearly as big of a deal as the fact that we both have sort of big projects that are more important. And I believe, I mean, we could check in whenever and talk about this, but I believe that we're both fairly content with in our marriage, like what each other are doing to enable those projects. Like, I don't have, I'm not like resenting Katie for not allowing me to work on my projects. And
Mhm.
that's more important than any chore. And I don't know, do you feel the same way?
Yeah.
In general?
Mhm.
I mean, I think there's room for improvement there
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
But that's the more important thing. And we've also been blessed to be very financially secure.
Mhm.
So something that we can also do in our marriage and in our family life is that we're willing to spend money to give ourselves time to do things that are important to
Mhm.
us. And we're willing to spend money to prioritize things. So like one example of that, so like you know, like since having kids, our house is a lot of times kind of a mess, right? But we have a pretty good system where like if somebody's coming over, it doesn't take probably much more than about 4 hours of work total,
Mhm.
maybe 5 between us to get the house like very clean.
Mhm.
So like it just doesn't matter if the house is kind of a mess because we're making progress on other things.
Mhm.
And like I don't want to hire a cleaner
Right.
because I want to be in charge of my cleaning and I don't want to have somebody else in my stuff. But we spend money other ways to make time. Like we as a family, we eat out a lot. We dine out. or we'll get, we could probably spend a lot less money than we do on groceries if we got things that were more time intensive to prepare. And we also eat pretty simply. Like we don't, our food that we eat, like my mom, for example, like when we go over to her house, she'll make these really nice meals with like a bunch of different side dishes and stuff. And that's like not something that we do in our life. I eat very simple things for breakfast and lunch. Oftentimes I don't really have proper meals for breakfast and lunch because I just don't care. It's not like I would rather have the time to do other things. So there are all these different ways that we sort of prioritize the things that are important to us, which is like our kids, are, for me, like my job, however I'm, financially providing. And then outside of that are like big projects. And that isn't like chores around the house. It's like our creative work, our things that we want to leave behind when we're gone, our like creative legacy.
And Patrick asked about chore charts, and it made me laugh because we've done Scrum at home for a very long time now.
And that's taken somewhat, that's like, again, that's something else that has taken a back seat. Like we used to run it a lot more rigorously before we had kids. Because we had more time. Now with kids, we don't have as much time. So
kids who want to pull on the Post-it notes.
So that's something that's taken a back seat. But notably, something about Scrum is that we don't usually put chores on it.
Right.
Because chores are a very predictable thing that for us doesn't take much time. We use Scrum. We don't use Scrum to plan, going to get groceries, because we just kind of know that's something that has to happen. Right. We use Scrum to plan bigger house projects, and we use it so we are prioritizing our personal creative projects.
And that has really enabled us to realize that was our priority, because as we had kids and had less time, we realized that the chores were not as important to us as the things that we actually put on the Scrum board. And we were able to talk about stuff, right? If I want a house project done, well, we talk about it in the Scrum meeting, right?
And there's arguments there sometimes, right? Because like there's things that each of us will say, this is important to me, and the other one will say no. And that makes us work through it. But usually those discussions aren't about chores, right? Like whatever frustrations I have about chores, are just not, it's not, to me, it's like not important.
Right. And say we are going to have somebody over and we decide to put chores on the Scrum board because we know it's going to be,
which we do sometimes, because cleaning sometimes isn't a regular enough thing to be a chore.
It's a giant project.
Well, a medium-sized project.
Right. Like a 5-hour clean of the house or whatever. Usually at the time that we are talking about this and looking ahead towards the week, there's an understanding of who's going to do what. And we can talk about it if either of us is unhappy with it. So I think we are more community or communication oriented than maybe a lot of couples about this kind of thing. But it's not a chore chart, but it's a visualization
of priorities.
But it just seems to be, and I'm taking an outlook at all my friends, and there doesn't seem to be like the ABC family movie of like, all right, let's sit down, have a family meeting. All right, the parliamentary procedures in play, Robert's Rules of Order. Let's read the minutes. It's not something that's it's a formal thing, but it's a thing that I think from like how you guys eat. Like if Katie was someone who needed like the beef Wellington, full on spread, and you couldn't have the same color of every food is something that it was a new concept to me. I was like, okay, that's fine. There's not like it seems like you've dated and you kind of knew that personality worked well with you, and that probably added, at least maybe not directly out loud, but this is someone who's the partnership of that, like not 50-50, but like this is someone who I don't have to completely change my entire personality for, because that's not how we should date, because that only works in movies and no one sees what happens after the honeymoon kiss.
Mhm.
Yeah. What about in your marriage? How would you describe how you?
So I tend to be very detail oriented, but then I have a hard time opening up to new endeavors, because uh, it's not so much everything has to be perfect for me, but everything has to be orderly for me. Like my bookshelves, this is unacceptable to me. Like I have books that aren't organized appropriately. My sci-fi section though is perfect. Like I've got everything down. There's Michael Caine's 4-volume set right there, and I'll get the 5th one whenever he wants to release a hardcover. So when it came time for me to work for the pastor that I work for, I was just doing like a side job that he knew that I had like at the time I had like 2,000 movies that I kept like meticulously ordered by title. I reviewed things. I was the autistic person that we know and love today. And my wife was saying, you should start a business. And I was like, no, I would never, that's nothing I would do. That's something so huge and big. She's like, no, you should look into it. And like just that little motivation allowed it to become pretty much the primary source of income that we have, where she now volunteers with me for tax purposes. And we're able to pretty much just view my regular source of income as like, okay, I go to a 9 to 5 job, PM to AM, just for pretty much the insurance. And so without her motivating me to just look into, it's a $25 LLC fee, and then or 50, and then 25 every year after that, we were able to like have her perfectly timed where she was working when we had kids or started having kids. Her work closed down, and she was just able to transition to be a stay-at-home mom, where then she does work outside the home with doing the meal planning for our church, and she loves that.
Mhm.
It uses a lot of her gifts, and so it really was perfect leading. If I wouldn't have listened to her gently saying like, hey, you should look into this, and me not completely closing her off like, nope, women's opinions, I'm ruling the roost here, then we would have not been in the position that we are now, and we can homeschool our kids and look down upon other people who send their
Oh,
children
yeah.
off to Caesar to be good Romans.
Yep.
And then as far as like how things go, like cooking is her thing because it's beneficial, to kind of like we're her test audience for the church, and that's great. And people are like, oh, does she cook this well at home? And I go, yes. And I get to be the test audience, and it's always good. It's just whether or not you reap the benefits of it. And so I always have a good time bragging about her, and not being like, oh yeah, she's a slave driver. How, she tries all these concoctions. Like uh there was a time where I was working at a place, and this guy was showing a sticker around that had like it had something to do with the fact of like, do you like money, then never get married. And he was showing people that to get a cheap laugh, and he showed it to me. And what do you think of this? I go, I don't know, I love my wife. And he's like, well, so do I. And I'm just like, do you? Like I usually don't call people out. Usually I'm very Midwestern of like, you judge people silently behind their back, like good people. But like that was just so annoying. I was like, I know you're married. What do you think this is honoring to your spouse? Do you want this done to you? And it was just so frustrating. But I distinctly remember that interaction where I'm like, and that's not just a me thing. Like that's just it's a mutual respect thing. And so when we talk about the home, like, yeah, she does the cooking, I do the dishes. But if she ever was like, hey, can you do dinner? It's like, yeah, fine. Like all you have to do is ask. And
Mhm.
Right.
hey, I'm gonna take a day to do nothing. Okay. Like, so what do the kids have for school? I've got it. Or, she's exasperated with teaching algebra. I've secretly accidentally taught my oldest algebra. When we got to it, was scared, and I was like, "You've been doing it the whole time. Dad has tricked you into answering questions that you didn't realize was algebra." And so, but I love that, and she knows where my strengths are and where my weaknesses are, and that's the great thing is she's strong in my weaknesses, and then she's able to lift me up and go, oh, I don't have to be such an introvert. She's there, and when my battery runs down, she can do the talking for me. And then I'm able to do things like have a podcast and
Mhm.
12 people watch it, and that's fine because I'm
Mhm.
still reading a book with my mentor who I absolutely love, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing 2 hours with him tomorrow. Okay, great. And that's never like, like really, or anything like that. It's just, no, here's my thing. I enjoy it. I like it. I would still be doing it if it wasn't over video. It's just more editing for me that I add to my queue of making hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy these books. But yeah, so that's what we do. But there was never like a sit down talk. We don't have a chore chart. Even my kids, I feel like they've gotten a lot easier. Like I used to have when I lived at home and growing up, I had like the mom list. Do these things, and there were small things. You got your $5 at the end, and now my kids are like, we kind of have the things that we need, and they're pretty low key with like not. They're like, oh, can we have this? No, okay, and that's the end of it. So like their
Mhm.
personality really matches ours, and it's really fun to see that like type of family atmosphere just kind of settle and
Mhm.
like, oh no, I really really want this. I've been asking for a full year on it. All right, like we'll get it for you, and it's not like anything that they have to earn. It's just they've been persistent
Mhm.
about it. They've been good.
Mhm.
They've done well in their school, and we're just okay. This is the reward
Yeah.
aspect of it.
I like that too. That's kind of something that I want to do with our kids where, I don't want to. My parents didn't do this, but there's that kind of like boomer, oh, you need to do your chores. You can learn how to have this attitude, right? Or whatever. And it's like, my kids don't need that. Like, I want to give them time and space to spend, you know, developing themselves,
Mhm.
right? We can all share in the chores, and we can all work together to find ways to save ourselves time and do the things that matter for us,
Mhm.
And I want to share that with our kids.
Mhm. And yeah, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, like
Mm-hmm.
sweep or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, I thought sweeping was the absolute worst.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the easiest chore in the world.
Yeah.
I can understand now why my parents were so like frustrated. Why didn't you sweep? Like you sweep every night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You put it in the corner? Like what the heck is wrong with you?
Now we just have the robots to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got to push the button. I got to tell the
Um,
Echo to make it start. Oh, this is terrible. Yeah.
oh
You know,
man.
I'm just proud when they continue to die after the level 1-1 of Mario. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
Dad, like you have to do this. I was like, no, this is how you learn. This
Yeah.
is you have to repeat the patterns and understand where the turtle is going to come from.
I'm still better than you.
Yeah, yeah. Although the fighting games, I'm more of a button masher, and I'm mouse and keyboard, and they're like, oh, Dad, we play Roblox on our tablets. I'm like, you don't have anything that's tactile that lets me know where I'm going, and so I just tell them I can't help them, or I say, listen, this is your game. I'm not going to play your game for you.
Yeah.
In reality, I cannot jump and move at the same time on a tablet. It's impossible.
I just recently started saying that in physical toddler games, my daughter will come up to me like, Mom, can you make this fit on this doll? Like, no, that's part of your game. You gotta figure out how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Could I do it? Yes, I could. Am I going to? No.
I don't know how you guys do. Like the little Barbie hands always get caught on every single thread in Barbie clothes. This is why G.I. Joe was better. We just had guns that we put into hands. We had karate chop action. We had Motu. It was great. None of that stuff.
So let's now pivot and talk about why Matt Walsh sucks. So you want to
Hour 6 of the podcast.
You want to bring up Matt Walsh's non-response to this video.
So this was his.
A few weeks ago, I said I don't do my husband.
Be quiet.
Quiet, woman.
He said she made a 2-minute video when it would have been quicker and simpler just to say, I'm a bad wife and a selfish person. She does her own laundry and the kids' laundry, but not her husband's. That means she separates his and specifically makes sure not to throw it in the washer when she's doing a load. This kind of self-centered pettiness and scorekeeping is death to a marriage. They'll be divorced in 5 years, if not sooner.
And of course, that's all just completely wrong. Like, that does not mean that at all. You have Matt Walsh, you have no idea what is going on in their laundry room.
Right.
And everyone knows the things you need in a relationship more than anything is more totes and more laundry baskets. That's all you need for a happy relationship.
Always can use more laundry baskets.
The only thing Costco has going for it is not the 6 pounds of rice for the nuclear apocalypse. It is definitely those yellow totes that are super strong and can hold your entirety of your child's 2-year-old clothes, so that if you have another kid or if you find another kid who's 2, you can give that to them.
I think this kind of response is just sort of typical Matt Walsh, where it's like, okay, Matt Walsh has said this. Now I know how the laundry works in Matt Walsh's house, which is that they toss everything all into one laundry basket. But you know what, Matt Walsh? That's not how it works for everybody. You know, he doesn't do. He doesn't separate the lights from the darks. Yeah. This husband, he doesn't want his dress shirt in the same basket as the kids' pee poo poo pants, right? Like, it's not that hard. It's fine if you do, Matt Walsh. It's fine if you want the kids' pee pants touching your dress shirts, and your wife just throws them all in there together. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a sin, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it's not like some kind of Bible command or church command or religious rule that it does. Like, you're just making stuff up for internet clout and engagement bait.
Basically, everything is assumption, right?
Yeah.
The idea that their kids are probably small and maybe potty training, right? That's an assumption that we make that would explain a possible reason why they separate their laundry.
Yeah.
And Matt Walsh is making an assumption about the way that their laundry is organized.
The difference is that I'm trying to be charitable, or at least seeing a charitable explanation, and he's not, which is typical Matt Walsh behavior, right? Like, I'm right, everybody else is wrong. I don't understand why people would disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you're stupid. The things that I say have value, and the things that I say don't have value.
And the thing that he harps on seems to be like the lowest common denominator of the thing that you could do. Like, if you were to just show me this video, I'd be like, oh, they don't do the laundry together? That's weird. And that could just be a take. There's nothing that he adds to it where it's like, here's what separating the laundry really does to her psyche. Dividing the family already. She's keeping them separated. At least that'd be a step up from like, she doesn't do the laundry, terrible wife, because we all know wives do the laundry only.
Yeah.
Or like harp on her her terrible attitude.
She takes time to sort his laundry out,
Yeah.
take his laundry out, so she doesn't. She just doesn't do it out of
On
spite.
purpose.
That's not what she said.
Yeah,
She said, I do my laundry, he does his laundry, and we do the kids' laundry. That's what she said.
yeah.
So, like, he's making an assumption based on something that he misheard.
Yeah. Did you see Fantasy Files podcast is here?
Yeah. Hi, Spencer. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
This is what
Well-
we've been talking about.
Well, yeah, and
Oops,
I
sorry.
don't know if you're just tuning in, Spencer, but we like, and there's a little bit of disagreement between us, but I actually have kind of a charitable interpretation of this woman. I don't think that she's saying too much that's unreasonable, and
we think we just like her attitude.
we just
more
like
than
her
anything.
attitude and the way that she's kind of talking down to her audience. But I think it sounds like that she and her husband have a understanding of the division of domestic labor. She's got an understanding of charity and the way she likes to show her husband love.
Mhm.
And in typical fashion, Matt Walsh just has to show up and shit over all over something just because it's good engagement bait / he is unable or unwilling to understand and think about what it might be like to be somebody other than himself.
Mhm.
Right. This is the video
My
game.
children don't have phones. No one else should have phones.
Yeah.
Also-
It's like the video game thing all over again. It's
Yeah.
like
We don't keep them in the house.
you know, yeah. It's like, no, they're not allowed in our house. And everybody in the replies is like,
This
"Oh,
is
like,
such a
Ma-
moderate
it's
position.
a moderate position. You know, Matt Walsh, he's a reasonable person, you know, like you should really think about it." It's like, no, it's not. It's not a moderate position. Now, I'm not saying that he's not allowed to do that.
Right.
I'm not saying that Matt Walsh isn't allowed to throw his dress shirts in with his kids' pee-pee pants. But that's not gospel. Not
Yeah.
everybody has to do that. You know, you don't have to bind people's consciences.
Mhm.
And it isn't even a like male headship versus
Right.
complementarian versus egalitarian who's in charge thing. It's just different people are allowed to do things different ways, Matt Walsh.
Yeah. Well, like
If Matt Walsh ever touched any piece of laundry that was dirty, he is a bad husband for not forcing his wife to do the laundry.
yeah, she
and
She
like
comes
scorekeeping. When did she keep score? I mean, she's talking about a division of labor. It's what would be keeping score is something like, well, you know, I will do my husband's laundry if he does mine.
yeah.
Like if my husband does my laundry on Monday, then I will do it on Friday. But if he doesn't, then I won't.
David and I agreed earlier that she's unnecessarily pedantic about this. Comes across that way.
She needs
So-
another non-alcoholic beer is all I know.
But I feel like that's another assumption that she is being scorekeeping. I got that impression. David disagreed.
Mm-hmm. And I can see where somebody gets that impression the way she's saying it, but I just don't. I mean, I think there's different ways of interpreting
Mhm.
what she's saying.
And we're only getting half the story.
Fantasy Files has a
right?
well, they get the first.
Oh, sorry. I definitely don't always agree with Walsh, but I think this lady is just weird, and selfish, and keeping score in a really odd way. Her act of kindness is buying him non-alcoholic beer.
And vinyl.
Presumably, he likes non-alcoholic beer.
Right.
Like maybe if he doesn't, then if he would really rather have alcoholic beer and doesn't like non-alcoholic
Mhm.
beer, then her doing that is not kindness.
Right.
But I'm assuming that that's something that he does like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird.
But
But-
she is not normal.
Mhm.
I think the follow-up video has to be like Guantanamo Bay. Her husband's like confessing to all his crimes, and she's just sitting there like, and what else did you do? And what else do you like? If she came out with that video and like they played it just straight of like he's being tortured, I'm on
Mhm.
her side the whole way.
Mhm.
I think I don't like her from the video, but I don't think that she's necessarily a bad wife.
Yeah.
or even a
I-
selfish
No,
person.
no, she spends way too much. They spend way too much time doing laundry. Throw it all in. It's fine. These new washing machines today, this shirt used to be white. Okay, yes, sure. It's red now. No, I'm saying you just throw it in and stop. Like, come on, just be a stay-at-home mom, and then you won't have to worry what you look like outside of the house. No one else is gonna see you. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And I think Matt Walsh's comment that they'll be divorced in 5 years, if not sooner.
That's mean.
I think that's
Do you think if the husband initiates the divorce, do you think Matt Walsh would be like, good, do it, good
No.
for him?
Yeah, that's
it would be his fault, wouldn't it?
That is a very, very good point. And that is, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is another way of getting at that one of the same arguments that I was making, which is everybody. So this woman is arguing against some position, which I'm not sure I've heard anybody elucidate.
Yep.
But she seems to be arguing against a position that says it's your duty as a wife to do all of these chores around the house because that's how you are kind to your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as a wife, you should be kind. That's the way I read her video as making an argument. Nobody makes that kind of argument for men going to work and doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
Going to work and doing your job and making money for the family as a man is not, nobody sees that as an act of charity. Left-wing people don't, centrist people don't, right-wing people don't, religious people don't. As a man, going to work and doing your job and bringing home the bacon is just what you're expected to do. And if you don't, then everybody hates you, right? It's not like people love you and consider you to be a charitable person for doing your job, right? At the on your birthday, people don't say, "Oh, we love you and appreciate you, David, because you did such a good job of earning money so your family could live a stress-free life." Nobody says that, but they'd hate you if you didn't. If you sat on your ass and didn't make any money, you'd be the worst person in the world, right? So that, to me, that fact is kind of getting at the same sort of thing that you just brought up, which is he's going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, this is going to end in divorce," but he's not even willing to say that the man would be justified in leaving her over this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably wouldn't say, I'm sure he wouldn't say the same thing vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So
or the other,
it's an abstract argument, but I guess it's like
this is all the man's fault. Like,
yeah.
If he wasn't such a weak beta male, let this happen, he doesn't even realize this has happened. He's probably so stupid. Yeah. But you know what? He probably can't find anyone better. So just let him be married in this type of relationship where all he has to do is his laundry. Yep.
Selfish, horrible wife, but there's nothing that guy can do about it. He's just stuck.
It's like when Cinderella's dad marries the stepmother. What did she see in him or her in him? I don't understand. Why are you marrying these people? But there's got to be something there, right?
It's a very interesting thing, and that's something that I think comes up a lot in these kinds of conversations, the sort of what I consider to be hypocrisy with which these people sort of treat men versus women. You know, even when they're sort of like calling women names, they can't put any responsibility and agency on. And I mean, we're sort of reading that into what Matt Walsh is saying this here, but I don't think it's a leap. It's always just the man's fault, right? And it's interesting to think about how that dynamic might play into this particular problem of like who's doing the chores,
Mhm.
right? You know, I can't picture Matt Walsh. Like how would Matt Walsh like yeah, he's just taking what this woman is saying as a very reasonable, like, let's divide our labor, as she's being a bad wife. But like, what would it look like? I mean, surely if the guy never did anything around the house, Matt Walsh would call him a bad husband,
Mhm.
right?
No, because all he has to do is work. That's all he has to do. Matt Walsh.
Would Matt Walsh actually believe that though? I have a hard time with that idea as well.
Well,
No, but that's what he expects from just the simpleton people, not the people that work at Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it in reverse a little bit. If the husband, without listing the things that he did in the running of the home, the sort of the same way that she does, said, I don't cook dinner, I don't wash dishes, I don't do the laundry, right? Or I do my laundry, I don't do hers, right? Like, I have heard so often the husband should be helping out around the house. He shouldn't just leave everything to his wife. I've heard that so often in my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
I have no question that he would be reamed way worse than this woman.
Yeah.
Yes, but only by other women. There's no man that's gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, dude, you're not folding the towels. Seriously, folding the towels is the easiest thing to do, except when the ones have the hood on them. It's like folding a fitted sheet. It's just magic. I've watched the YouTube video and I don't understand the magic of doing it. No dude's doing that. You're only gonna hear it from left. And I bet you he expects her to take care of all the kids' stuff.
You'll hear it from women and pastors. I think that's the other group that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I feel like if Josh was here, he'd make a really succinct point of combining those two together.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I wish there was a little bit more context, and maybe we'll get some more.
Spencer says we need the husband's response video.
Maybe we'll get some more if Matt Walsh actually talks about this in a video. I don't want to listen to his voice though. I don't like it.
I think we just all need to read The Taming of the Shrew again, and we just realize it could be worse.
Yep.
Or The Secret Life of Walter Mitty for the male version of it.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. See, look at they're actually talking about separate hampers in the replies.
See, we don't have separate hampers. It's just more hampers. More hampers are needed.
Hampers. Yeah.
Never even considered
a segregated hamper.
Yeah.
Never considered.
Yeah. See, that's your problem, Matt Walsh, is you just don't. He goes through life, again, either unable or unwilling to imagine that other people might have opinions about things that are different from his that are also reasonable. It's just not something that he's capable of. You know, it's like, oh, why would you have separate hampers? I don't know. Maybe you'd have separate hampers just because you want to have one hamper on one side of the bed and another hamper on another side of the bed. Mm-hmm. Like, have you thought about that, Matt Walsh? Like, seriously.
Oh, but what if a robber came in and saw that you had dirty clothes? They have to be tucked in and hidden in the closet. That's where we keep ours, out of the way.
If I kept a hamper in the closet, it would just be a pile of clothes, sort of around a hamper, and that is my fault.
That's what it was when you did have the hamper in the closet.
Yeah, that ended very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, David pulled it out and said, "We will not be keeping this in. I'm putting my foot down. You will obey."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we just keep the bedroom door closed when we have people over.
Yeah.
And no one needs to see any of that.
No.
Why are you upstairs? Everything good is downstairs.
It's
Yeah, he doesn't. Matt Walsh doesn't appear to be able to conceive of other people's ways of running their
Mhm.
lives, if whether that's the entertainment that they choose or
Mhm.
the way that they organize their laundry.
No one's asked him, Matt, what's a perfect marriage? Can you tell me? If
Did
you're
you
unable
see
to define it.
Eternal Diamond says the Matt Walsh bit would be that the husband should be making enough money so that
Yeah.
the wife can stay home and do all the housework. Yeah.
Well, and let's just talk about that a little bit, because we kind of touched on that. So I mean, like, that's how it works in our house,
Pretty
right?
much, yeah.
Like, there's been, like, in our marriage before we had kids, Katie worked part-time for a while and then full-time. I've always been the primary breadwinner. We have kids now. She stays home with the kids. She does some jobs here and there that bring in a little bit of money, but far and away I make the money. But I mean, she doesn't do all the housework, right? And that's due to a combination of she has her own things to do and I want to let her do that, and there's some housework that I want to do because I like the way I do it better than the way she does it. I mean, it's and I'm sure Matt Walsh, it's very possible that he thinks something like that, but again, it's kind of a caricature of the way life actually works. Like, even if you are blessed to be able to do that, like we are, I mean, it's still,
it's not that cut and dried.
No. And I mean, like, would you apply that to kids? Like, oh, the husband makes enough money so the wife can stay home with the kids so the husband doesn't have to interact with the kids. Like, nobody thinks that.
Right.
Yeah. My goodness.
So, why would you why would you think the same thing about household chores?
How about if the wife took out the garbage? That's the man's responsibility.
Yeah.
What if she had to regrout the shower? That's only a man thing. Now, my wife redid our bathroom, and all I did was stand there and hold pieces of glass, and then hand tools, and then she put it together. That was amazing. Like, I would need all sorts of YouTube videos to do that because I'm a city person who wants to make up enough money to hire other people to do that. She's like, no, I got this. Like, that's great. But it's not like, oh, I failed as a man. Oh, I just feel so like, no, heck no. I've got a larger shower that I just used and it was great. It's awesome.
That's been something that we've done in our marriage too. There's different like house projects that Katie has done. I probably would have hired out, but there's something that she wanted to do herself and I helped out with, and it was her thing. It was like
I wanted a tile backsplash in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I did it.
And that wasn't something that I cared so much about, so it wasn't my project. But then there are projects that I have that she doesn't care as much about, so I take them on. There's give and take.
Right.
So Fantasy Files had a good, hey, Ultimate Kahuna, we're talking about Matt Walsh and his stupid takes. No, this
one. I liked this one. What's a hamper? You mean the pile?
Yeah. Well, that's actually what we do now.
You got to get married. You get cleaned up that way.
Well, we have a pile on the floor right now.
You'll immediately change once you say I do.
Yeah.
So like
when you get married, you just everybody automatically becomes a better person.
Automatically.
No effort.
Just
magic. Your debt gets halved. It's great.
So recently discovered that, because I tried to go back to making sure there was always a basket just to try and keep things a little neater in the bedroom. And my daughter, I would say, here, take your dirty socks, run them across the hall and throw them in the laundry basket. And then I would come into my bedroom later after putting the kids to bed and there'd be socks just in the middle of the wall.
She just threw them in there.
She just threw them through the door.
Just tiny little socks.
Oh man.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but this is a good comment.
Do you guys wonder if more often than not, Matt Walsh is kind of playing up a character, whether in his videos or Twitter or whatever? I do
I
feel
don't
like
know,
that.
Yes.
whatever money he's making, good for him.
Yeah.
Crotchety old man.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I agree that that is what he's doing.
Mhm.
But I think some people sort of deploy that. Some people who really like him kind of deploy that as like, oh, well, you shouldn't be arguing with him when he's obviously playing a character or joking or being
Yeah.
sarcastic. And we've been over this so many times. It's like,
I don't think he'll ever be able to do better than What Is a Woman. I think that's his peak.
Yeah.
I don't think he,
Yeah.
unless if aliens come down and demons in disguise.
Yeah.
Not to take any ideas from anyone's stories,
And,
but
and see, there's nothing wrong with like yucking it up a little bit and, sort of taking exaggerated positions to make maybe a less exaggerated position a point. But I mean, there's still something to argue against, right? So, like say tomorrow Matt Walsh puts out and talks about this in a video and he says like, oh guys, you climbed, everybody climbed all over me for this tweet. I was just joking,
Mhm.
right?
oh
Like,
gosh, those are so cringe.
and see, and that's what he's done on some of this other stuff. Like, oh, like this whole anime is satanic thing. It's just a joke. Well, like, but again, like, what is a joke? So, like, say he's playing this character that has this more extreme view. Okay, so he says in the tweet, like, she could have just saved time by saying she's selfish and a bad wife. Okay, so there's no way. So basically, if you're joking, right? What are the possibilities? So saying that she's selfish and a bad wife is a more exaggerated or stronger statement than what you actually believe. So you don't believe that she's selfish and a bad wife, but you still think that she was saying something bad. Like she is advocating for a bad position or something, or there's something less than ideal about what she described, right? More than just her tone of voice. Like you're saying, or her presentation, you're saying there's something not so good. So we still have something to disagree with him there because I don't really think I didn't like her presentation, but I don't think there's anything unreasonable about what she said.
Sure.
What's another possibility? You were being sarcastic, so you actually said the opposite of what you meant. I don't think that. I don't think anybody is thinking that by tweeting, oh, this woman could have just saved time and said, I'm a bad wife and selfish, that he actually meant the opposite, that Matt Walsh was saying that she is actually a good wife and not selfish. I don't think that thought is in anybody's heads. I don't think that's what Matt Walsh means.
Or sarcasm to go further, like, oh, you do the kids laundry too? No, I don't care if they're two. You make them do their own. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You add to it, and you're like, no, the reasonable position is the wife does it all.
Right.
But that's not what you're talking about.
And then the third thing that you could take if it's just a joke or character is that it's just like he's just totally trolling, and what he said is just neither here nor there, completely orthogonal to what his belief is. And I don't think anybody believes that either.
No.
Right.
He's not that interesting
like
to do that.
There's room, even in my opinion, for that kind of trolling where you're just saying goofy stuff just for the
just
sake
to get
of
a rise
just
out of people, and it doesn't.
Yeah, but usually I feel like when you're doing that kind of thing, you're either making an exaggerated version of what you actually believe, or you're kind of stating the complete opposite for humorous effect. And I don't think it's the latter. And even if Walsh is playing this character of like a more extreme, more cranky view of what he actually believes, he still is advocating for stuff that we find ridiculous. And I think especially in his videos, you can kind of see him tone down and speak seriously, like the video games are satanic video, right? He sort of downplayed the idea that video games are actually satanic, which again, I don't think anybody believed that he was, or anime is satanic or whatever he said, because there's the anime is satanic and the video games are bad or whatever it was. Like I don't think anybody believed that he was saying that anime is like an actual satanic cult, right? But we
or,
have
or demonic.
or demonic, but we have an understanding as Christians of what satanic means, and it can kind of mean a whole range of things. You could see him, he in those videos, he sort of downplayed that statement, but then he kind of brought himself back, and I believe he was making claims that he intended people to take seriously.
Mhm.
And when you look at those claims, they're still loathsome, right? So whether Walsh is playing a character or not, I feel like this kind of analysis is still worth making, and it's a fun discussion to have, because
Yeah.
I think he is, even if he is playing this sort of exaggerated character, which I agree with that idea, I think he's still making claims that are worth examining and pushing back against.
Yeah.
I think this shows us that boomers still have too much money to pay for Daily Wire subscriptions.
Yep.
Because this is who it appeals to. It's the people who don't realize that it's an 18-year-old college kid that Ben Shapiro is arguing with. And I've been on record saying I love the Thug Life Ben Shapiro compilations. They're hilarious. They're funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're good popcorn YouTube, Twitter videos to watch. But I mean, are we saying Ben Shapiro is going to get smoked by some college chick who just learned her worldview from 2 classes, 16 credit hours ago, and that's it? Like, I mean, that plays well, and again, it's entertaining. So you have those two aspects of, like, you have an audience, it's entertaining, and it's good for the platform because that's what is going to drive the views, is that negativity, and who doesn't love that? But that's not useful. Like, it's the same thing with the red pill guys. Their audience is single men or people that want to be players, but no true red pill guys watching other true red pill people for the purposes of, like, learning anything. It's just to be part of that community, and that's where you're gonna build it up. Like the whatever podcast, people that drop $500 to hear some AI voice read their comment to bust down OnlyFans chicks. Like,
Mhm.
you have way too much money if that's a thing. Like,
Mhm.
that do something else. Like, burn that money is more worth it than donating it to a podcast to tell OnlyFans chicks making
Mhm.
millions of dollars or thousands of dollars that they're whores. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, again, I mean, I think like the red pill guys from 10 years ago, even the really loathsome ones, they would have said that that's pointless and stupid,
Mhm.
right? Like, be a better person than somebody who spends money, or waste time and money on stuff like that.
Yeah, that used to be the main message of the red pill movement, was like,
Mhm.
you be a better person,
Yeah,
and that will be attractive.
it's not even about like being manipulative or even saying women are dumb. It's just like saying, look, you have to be better. I mean, and that's my charitable view
Sure.
of that. I mean, you could take an uncharitable view, but it's like it was more about saying, like, you as a man need to be better. Like, if you're out here complaining about this, like, the problem is you.
Mhm.
You need to be better. But okay, we've got a couple comments from Ultimate. You want to do that first one first?
Quite a few. When I was married the last couple of years, I went to work, took care of them, and got them in bed, and then did all the chores until about 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then pointed out Matt Walsh is tricky because most people, it's obvious when they're playing a character, and with him, it's not obvious.
Yeah, and that might be, and I don't want to use autistic as an insult, because it's like, I'm not making a judgment about his value as a person, but I think Matt Walsh is a little bit on the autistic side, where he, like, if you say something and then you get upset at how everybody takes it, the problem is you, not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you know, with Matt Walsh, it's hard to tell how much of that is like a show, how much of that is expected, because like we've talked about before, especially on Twitter, a key to engagement is like kind of saying things in this sort of deliberately vague, easy to misinterpret way that gets people fighting with you. And I think Walsh is good at that, but you know, it's like, to Ultimate Kahuna's point, you know, if the goal was clear communication and not engagement, I think there would be a clearer, you would be able to tell when it was his opinion versus him being sarcastic or having an exaggerated opinion or just saying something completely goofy to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could tell.
Who's listening to the full 40 minutes of Matt Walsh? Like I understand Ben Shapiro, right? So like Rush Limbaugh got where he did because no one was out there on AM radio doing what he did. And so he came in and was the golden voice of radio for the conservative movement. You know, he built it from the ground up. You know, he had Mr. Snerdley and we know all the names, and we remember sitting in our dad's car waiting for the bank thing to shoot down and give you your money, and it was the best thing ever. With the suckers, always get the suckers with it. So that thing has always been the answer to, well, mainstream media. You know, that the corporate media is the better term for it now, but mainstream media was always like the left's, AM radio was always the right, and then podcast happened and we diversified. So I can see people paying $40 or whatever it is for Daily Wire for Ben Shapiro because he offers that political commentary, and it might be something slightly different, although probably not recently, that you might not have considered. And he talks fast, which helps, and especially at 2x speed. But is anyone going to Matt Walsh for political commentary? I mean, it's more cultural, right? It's more they're trying to cut off our boys' junk and trying to make our hairy 40-year-old men swim with our daughters and naked. But no, I mean, are people in and out listening to 40 minutes of that daily? Probably not. And so this is where he has to make his notoriety. This is where he builds the brand of Daily Wire so that he can continue to make podcasts for the 60-year-olds who are probably watching him for man, I can't believe what they're doing to our children that we haven't had for 40 years.
And you can't disagree with him on other subjects because he does such good work.
Yeah.
He
asked, what is a woman? And just no one had the answer for that.
No.
And those were good. But again, like if you watch just all those times where he in his documentary had like those interactions, those were all you need. You didn't need anything else. You didn't need any other experts. It was fun to watch him with the African tribe, but you got the three doctors saying ridiculous things. What is truth? You're being a bigot. I'm done here. And then you were done. Like you didn't have to watch any more of that other than those clips. And and I'm sure he makes the money for that. Same thing with Michael Knowles. Like I don't really, he probably adds a little bit more as far as commentary, but he still feels like a culture guy. Randy Clayton.
I suspect a lot of it is just, you know, it's background noise. And I mean, I don't want to criticize that too harshly because I think that's what a lot of live streams are. I mean, that's what I use live streams for, and I enjoy them a lot, is like just something to listen to while I'm doing chores.
Mowing, yep.
And that's probably what a lot of our listeners are doing as well too. But to me, it doesn't seem sustainable. You know, I'd like to think that the kind of conversations that we're having here that are a little bit more nuanced and like charitable, and you know, we're disagreeing with each other a little bit, but being charitable about it and stuff.
I'm trying to be charitable to Matt Walsh as well.
Yeah,
like, we're not trying to say that he's a horrible person necessarily.
Yeah.
Or try to make his opinion sound like something that we don't think he actually means.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've been charitable to Matt Walsh in the sense that we're trying to figure out what he really means. And sometimes that means saying that we think that some of what he says is a lie, but like we're trying to figure out what he actually meant and what he intended to mean. But yeah, I mean, it's such as life that, you know, the kind of horrible content and drama and bad behavior and stuff is more compelling than, you know, happy, friendly, nuanced discussions. But that's kind of what I suspect a lot of it is for people. It's just, okay, like it's my routine that when I am doing the dishes or making my coffee or whatever, I listen to Matt Walsh, and I don't have to pay super close attention to it because I know he kind of talks about the same stuff. And but it's he's there, and he's kind of a friendly voice to you or whatever, you know, like he's somebody that's saying, you know, there's other people like you that share your opinions, you know, like there's people that there's other people in the world who are famous, who have a following that agree with you, you know. I think that's what Matt Walsh is doing, and I'm not gonna begrudge him of that, because I enjoy that aspect of the internet and live streams. I think there's a more constructive. I think there's more constructive things to do than what Matt Walsh does, especially in his takes on things like art, media, video games, books. But also in stuff like this, where I think there's a balance between like the stupid, liberal, egalitarian, you know, feminist, man-hating, you know, stuff, which probably very few people actually believe, you know, and on the one extreme, and then like the super terrible, like abusive, patriarchal stuff on one extreme. And Matt Walsh is somewhere in there, but I think that there's like the good red pill, you know, offers some truths that are really useful. And in my life, they've been very useful for understanding the world and like being successful at being married and dating and stuff like that, that people aren't talking about because they're kind of reasonable and maybe uncomfortable and don't really line up with one of those extremes, you know, and they aren't as useful, and they're also uncomfortable. Like people don't like to hear them, you know, people don't like to hear some of those red pill truths about the difference between men and women, because they don't fall naturally into either the, you know, the sort of evangelical or Catholic view of men and women versus the feminist secular view. You know, that's kind of how I see it.
And I think I am happy to see traditional values, traditional family structures sort of being celebrated more, especially in indie fiction, because as a young person, what I wanted most was to be a wife and mother, and felt like that was not something I could tell people. Like I had to have like a career. When people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, you don't say, I want to be a wife and mother, right? Like, so I'm thrilled to see that. But I think that part of complementarianism is the understanding that it's not just that men and women complement each other, but it's that specific couples complement each other in different ways as well. And it's not like we've been saying, right? It doesn't say in the Bible, the wife has to do all of the laundry together in one single load, right? Like there's not that.
And the Roman Catholic Catechism doesn't say that either, as far as I know. So, you know, this isn't even like a Protestant versus Catholic thing. It's just like a common sense thing, right? You don't.
The Westminster Shorter Catechism doesn't either.
Yeah, and I don't think
through it.
I don't think.
Should we look through the longer one?
I don't think any of the Thomists want to sit and say make some make some 100-page argument.
It is natural
on
law that
principles. Yeah, like nobody wants to do this. As far as I know, no reasonable person wants to do this. So it's not even that argument. It's just like, what are you doing? You're just stirring the pot for no reason.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back and think and be reasonable here. Oh, look, this woman, yeah, she's got a condescending tone, but she's saying something that's kind of true about practically dividing chores in your household. You know, I know we all want to have a knee-jerk reaction to the vocal fry woman talking down to us on TikTok, but like, let's just take a step back and think. Maybe there's nothing to really get upset about here other than her
crabby attitude.
her crabby attitude and her the form of her presentation.
Yeah.
This video showed me that the 19th Amendment should be abolished.
Oh yeah,
but for everybody, not just women.
Yeah.
The right to vote should be off the table.
Yeah.
Of course, I may have come into that predisposed to that before now.
Eternal Diamond said that Walsh is like a conservative version of Colbert.
Oh, at least Colbert was funny though. Unless he means current Colbert, then yes, insufferable.
Yeah, where he's not, because my understanding of the current one, he's not playing as much of a silly character, right?
No, and for someone who claims Catholicism as much as he did, even as in the character, man, it'd be nice to see a little bit of that. Or even as a Tolkien fan.
Ultimate Kahuna and Fantasy Files were talking a bit about The Fourth Wing.
What is that?
It's a newer fantasy series that sucks.
Is it like a trad pub thing?
I think so. Man,
we should start a periapsis like block, and you guys be indie pub, and I'll be the trad pub person that like I'm the heel. I'm just warring against you. This is all just wrestling all over again. But before the koala bears came in and took WWF off the mat, I'll be your Candace Owens. Listen, just try one more Brandon Sanderson book.
You know, I haven't read much of him at all.
This book sounds cool. I like what I'm reading about it.
Everything I've ever heard about it is that it was not good.
I mean, I'm sure it isn't, but I like the description. It sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, but we know men don't read, so
it has a Publishers Weekly gave the book a starred review, praising its world-building characters and sexy dark academia aesthetic.
Ooh.
What does that even mean?
Praised the use of familiar tropes and compared it favorably to fantasy series like Blood Trials by Annie Davenport and A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
Well, that's a popular one.
Yeah. I guarantee you that those Sarah J. Maas books are better than.
But you know what they didn't compare it to? Flipping Game of Thrones. I think we're past that finally. We're like every video game, if it's slightly hard, it's like, oh, this Mario is the Dark Souls of the Mario world. Like, all right, you get double jump in this. All right, settle down. Like, please stop comparing everything that might have possibly a statue of a dragon. Oh, this is exactly like Game of Thrones. Please stop.
Spencer says it's a romantasy. Lots of sex.
Well, that's not romantic.
Still don't. I'm not.
Are they married? Then it
I'm not hearing anything here that is changing my opinion.
And the reader pans over to the fistraight and then fade to black.
I'm already interested in this book, Spencer. You don't have to convince me.
Here's another straight up Twilight, but in a fantasy setting. Swear to God. Now, wait a minute.
Again, this is you keep.
David appreciates the Twilight series.
You keep saying things that make this book sound more interesting.
David, you and I should have a debate where you try and sell Twilight, and I hate the movies. So.
I haven't read the book, so I can't talk about the books, but I unironically really like the first Twilight movie. Like I don't own it yet. I would like to own it. I really like it. Now, are there cringy, cheesy parts to it? Of course. But there's so much to like about it. And I really legitimately think that Twilight is one of those things where it's so easy to hate, but whenever something is so well liked, everybody should really, again, take a step back from the knee-jerk reaction. Oh, surely everybody else is stupid, not me. But like, take a step back and think about what are the positive qualities of that thing. And I think that you'll find with Twilight, there's a lot to like, and there's a lot to like
It is
in that
the
movie
great.
too.
It is literally the Great Gatsby with vampires and barely vampires.
Sure, and The Great Gatsby is great.
So
It's
I
a timeless
read that
story, right?
kind of recently with just some people from work. We had a little book club where we were just like, hey, we're going to read a book and say if we liked it or not. And I
Mhm.
read Great Gatsby. I was like, this is a terrible book. I hate this book. But I'm like, oh, whoever main character is, he's just Edward Cullen. Like he's staring outside woman's
Mhm.
balcony. Like, oh, this is just a ripoff of Twilight, which I guess is the reverse. And like they have a driving car sequence where someone, I mean, granted they don't get killed there, but you know, almost.
He was like, whatever the main character's name is, Edward Cullen. I was gonna say Nick, but like that's not who you meant at all. Like, Nick is the main character of Great
Yeah.
Gatsby.
Well, sorry,
This is
not
Gatsby.
the reporter, the guy that everyone's like, oh, it's so and so. I hated the book, so it's kind of out of my memory. But I remember the old couple getting hit by a car because that's hilarious, and just
Yes.
no one cares.
I liked the book actually. I think that it is short, and
It is short.
everybody, like, you sort of loathe everyone, and so when
True.
the ending comes, you're like, all right,
Screw all of you. Ha,
yep.
ha, ha. Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I saw the, what was it, 2012, 2013 movie with
Yeah,
Tobey Maguire and
I
DiCaprio
Leonardo
never
movie.
watched
DiCaprio.
that. I really wish.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really great. It is a very fun movie to look at.
See the money burning on screen.
Yeah, and as far as I know, it's a fairly accurate adaptation of the
Easy to
book.
do with a short book.
Yeah. I mean, so
Yeah, Tobey Maguire and
compelling story. I mean, it's depressing, but that's fine. Not everything has to be happy.
Is it depressing though when you hate everyone? I feel like it's just a little bit different spin.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a horror movie. We want everyone, like, we want Jason to win every single time because we hate everybody. So
you like the whole time you're like, why are any of these people hanging out together?
because they're rich and they have nothing else to do in the 20s. Yeah.
All right, I gotta look over the comments again here.
Sorry, I probably got you guys way off track on the thing.
Ultimate Kahuna said, I've learned that I can't be with someone who doesn't have a hobby. It speaks to a certain dissatisfaction and easily bored personality.
And it doesn't have to be your hobby too. So like you guys both have common interests of reading together.
Mm-hmm.
My wife not so much, but
I mean,
she does read.
But
David doesn't read. He's a man.
Yeah, how dare she? But it's like you just have to have hobbies to be like an interesting person. And like I don't know anything about cooking, but when she tells me a story of like, oh, I did a dash of this and it completely changed the. She doesn't use mouth profile. I'm being facetious there, but she's like, oh, it has a better taste there. And I'm like, I have no clue what that would do, but okay, like let's try it out and all this stuff. And when I'm like, so there's these aliens and they come down, but the aliens are actually us and we're the ones invading. She probably just has the same thing. It's probably when she's like, so what book are you guys talking about on podcast? I was like, well, she doesn't watch the podcast, and I'm not like, oh, we have to have the same philosophical understandings or we're heading for divorce. If she's not reading the same books as you are, I mean, she's a terrible wife. So. Yeah, I think that's a strong indication of just like it's a desire not just to be planted, but also like expand and like wanting to do more. It's building the house, and the house takes you from not just the four walls, but then you add a garden, and you're literally expanding the garden
Mhm.
to not draw too much motif to Eden. But then you're having children and you're expanding. Now I believe that in the future expansion will lead to other worlds and stuff like that, and that's either pre-mill or post-mill. It doesn't matter. I don't care. It could be a mill for whatever we care about here. But yeah, I think that's just it's to be an interesting person. It's not just work and being on phone, but it's like here's a piece of my personality that I'm that will relate to me in some way. So I
Mhm.
really like movies. So you like storytelling, and that's an interesting facet of you that you can share in different ways, and that makes you a more personality. And someone might not like movies, and you're like, great, I don't want anyone to talk to me about who anybody is.
Mhm. Well, one thing that I really remember appreciating as a kid was that my mom did cross stitch and made things, mostly Christmas decorations. And we'd take them out every year and hang them on the tree, right? But like they were things that my mom made. Were they necessary for our lives? No. But like that the fact that she had that hobby added a lot to my life
Mm.
in a way that was that sort of made me think of her as not just like her role, right? But as like her own person. Um, and like it has like an enriching quality that I think I would like to bring to the lives of my own children, right? Where I'm doing things and they're they're my they're my cool things, right? My
Yeah.
hobbies, my passions, um, that they can see that and think I can make things, I can do things too, right?
Yeah. But I've kind of I've talked to you a little bit about both of you have talked about kind of building the bookshelf for your kids, and like like David grabbed that Star Wars one that he had as a kid, or had it around like an old time, that if his kids open it, he'll be able to share that experience with them, and they might not get the same satisfaction, but it'd be a nice thing to share with them. And there was nothing greater for me than to share the Phantom Toll booth with my oldest, who's like now at the age where she can understand, like, oh, his name's Talk, and he had a brother named Tick, and they that's but there's levels of the joke there, and it's just fun to sit down and listen to it being read to her by the audiobook, and then we just experienced that together, and then reading The Hobbit together, or The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and just having like I interviewed my daughter for The Hobbit. I'm like, all right, but what about the boring parts? There were boring parts in there. I do not care about whatever that tree is. And she's like, no, that was great. I loved it all. There was nothing I would change. I would read this again immediately. I'm like, you are a crazy child. But it's just like it's that like, if even if I have Charlotte's Web uh on that shelf and no one ever picks it up, like it'd be neat for them just to scan the shelf and go, uh, these books had an impact on my father, so that he loved books, and I can look to my left and right and see even more so that books played an important part, where it's like part of his personality, and they can take a little bit of that with them, even if they don't do anything with that. That still like embeds itself, like you're saying, like the you probably have like your favorite thing, or like the cross stitch that has to be on the fireplace, or that part of the tree. Like there are, I don't particularly like Christmas, but the elf with the long legs has to be on the bottom part of the tree, or it's like the tree's off to me. So like it's just, but no one ever cares about that except me, who like came up with this internal story about this elf that has to be here. And my parents didn't know anything about it other than oh, we have this ornament. And so that it's just a neat thing to think about, like even having books on a shelf where they see something and it might stick with them of seeing 10 books on that shelf.
Mm-hmm. Well, something about kids' books too. It's easy as a child to sort of grow up thinking, especially if you go to the library a lot, and that's your main source of books. It's easy to grow up thinking that they aren't worth very much. Like, mom and dad have their books, their adult books, and those are the ones that are important because they own them and they keep them and they, take care of them, read them. I think that having their own shelf and seeing the books on there that mom and dad have chosen, like that, especially if they know these are books that mom and dad enjoyed as kids, sort of speaks to the lasting impact of stories and their importance, even if they're quote unquote for children, right? Like, I would like my children to realize that their stories are not irrelevant. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And my children also hated Princess Bride without me prompting them. And so I'm like, okay, you are part of my family.
Let's catch up on some chat messages because you were about to show some stuff before.
Fantasy Files said, I don't disagree with David here about Twilight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Yep, that's it.
Okay, cool.
So we're caught up.
Yeah, well, a lot to think about. I'm curious now to see if Matt Walsh has any more to say about this particular video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see if there's going to be any more developments. I know he's interacted with TikTok videos in the past. Like there was that one where there was that young single woman who was talking about the nice Saturday that she had while not being in a relationship, and a bunch of people piled on, and then she made a response or something to it. So sometimes these meme things evolve into a little bit more, and I'm curious to see if more details will come out here about this one. I'm not going to go looking for it because I have better things to do, but we'll see if it crosses
it's okay to have terrible people not have children. I'm just putting that out there. I don't really care too much about the human race if certain people have kids, and that's terrible of me to say, but we all know it's true.
Yeah. Yep.
The Australians is who I'm talking about. Oh, how dare they?
Australians.
Return to your prisons.
I think that overall I'm inclined to take this woman a lot more charitably than I am Matt Walsh. So I don't like her. I think that she and I would not get along, but I don't think that she's necessarily a bad wife. I think that's reading far too much into it than we have context for.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those "Am I the asshole?" posts, right? Like where like you get just a tiny sliver of a couple's relationship, and then you make judgments basically based on your own experiences.
And most of them are fake.
Yep, that too.
Even just something as simple as the combined laundry thing. Right. Like Matt Walsh is watching this video, imagining this woman
taking the man's
spending
laundry out.
effort taking the man's laundry out so that he does it himself. Because Matt Walsh is an idiot, right? He's imagining this.
I bet you she folds it inside out too. So
yeah,
go through all of it.
He's not picturing how like different ways things might work.
Yeah.
So
missionary position, or you don't love the Lord. That's all we know.
And then after supper, you stare at the wall and talk about your day.
Yeah. You could throw around the pigskin outside.
Yeah. Drink from the garden hose. Fantasy Files podcast has a comment about "Am I the asshole?"
Love Am I the Asshole? Love judging those people.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably not real. That's the wonderful thing about it.
I
I
follow.
do feel like if you do have a portion in the podcast for it, you got to take it to the extreme of like someone is like Hitler or they're not Hitler.
I follow a bunch of people on Twitter who post those kind of Reddit screenshots because it's just a really good source of engagement, and it's kind of funny. I actually did one today. I should talk about that. I got judged really hard for. So
Really?
yeah, so there was a you can find it if you go to my
Sure.
replies and bring it up. We can talk about this a little bit, then we should hit the sack.
Whoops, David. I know how to spell David.
His own wife doesn't know how to spell his name.
Yeah.
She's a terrible person and selfish.
Yeah. Terrible wife.
It was her act of defiance because all he does is just make her stay home.
So it was, yeah, if you keep going, it was at the beginning of the day. Yeah. Keep going. So yeah, so this one.
Oh yeah, I saw this,
Yeah,
but I didn't realize that you were getting crap for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people liked it, but I got more pushback than I usually get. So this was incel, short Asian guy. He's like, I never really had a girlfriend, never had any luck with women. I don't really go outside. I play video games. I'm in community college and I've only passed like 4 or 5 classes in the last 3 years, work a fast food job, but I don't talk to my female coworkers. So how do I get a girlfriend? And I posted, how do I work towards acquiring a girlfriend? Well, for starters, stop being a terrible person. And people really took issue with me calling this guy a terrible person. And this is one of these things that kind of comes down to definition. I actually looked up terrible because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't completely off base. When I say terrible, I mean like a person who, not an evil person, but just somebody who doesn't take initiative and doesn't accomplish anything. And I think there is a definition of terrible that gets at that. So one of the definitions that Google Dictionary has for terrible is, well, there's extremely or distressingly bad or serious, extremely unpleasant or disagreeable, extremely incompetent or unskillful. So that's kind of the definition that I was getting at. Or extremely unwell or troubled, like I felt terrible. So those are the kind of 2 definitions, mainly the incompetent or unskillful that I was getting at. And somebody asked, honestly, why do you say that he's a terrible person? And I gave 2 reasons. One, he has been failing at community college for 3 years. So there's a real lack of initiative to either get better or get out. So you're still sharing, I think. Yeah. So in the best case, he's taking a really light course load, but why? And that's goofed up. But 3 years and you've only passed 4 or 5 classes, it means like you're failing the majority of your classes. So maybe
terrible
do that
at school.
Yeah, do that 1 or 2 semesters, and then there's no shame. College isn't for everybody, but if you do that for 1 or 2 semesters, like he's failed enough that he didn't like fall off a cliff or he's not getting better. It's like he's consistently failed. Like you do that for a year and then quit, right? Don't stay there. And then he says he wants a girlfriend, but doesn't talk to the women in his life, like at his coworker, his job. He says he doesn't talk to his coworkers. It's like, well, I'm not saying you should try to date your coworkers, but practice talking to women. Like, oh, I want a girlfriend, but I don't talk to anybody. It's like, okay, like you're going to have to talk to people to get a girlfriend. Right. And people really hated me for calling him terrible. And then they pushed back on this too, because I said that he sucks at college, and there multiple people have their responses like, well, like there's all kinds of people who are like college dropout drug dealer types who have girlfriends. And I'm like, yes, well, they're not terrible people. they're getting girlfriends. They're showing some initiative in other parts, like the high school dropout drug dealer. He quit high school, right? He didn't sit there failing in high school. He took initiative and got out.
He's
And
a small
then-
business owner. He's able to make
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah,
And he has a girlfriend. So I'm just saying.
yeah, like dealing drugs is a better job than fast
It works
food.
for the CIA, so why not?
Yeah, like it's not. This shouldn't even be controversial that like a high school dropout drug dealer is showing more initiative than a 3-year in 3 years of community college you passed 4 or 5 classes. Like, bro, in college I took 4 or 5 classes a semester at least, right? I'm not crazy.
At least, yeah.
Right? I took usually between 15 and 17 credits a semester, and that was usually at least 4 classes a semester. Right? If you've only passed 4 or 5 classes after 3 years, you need to get out, right?
I think something that reflects on our conversation, right, about this woman, in this conversation, the things that this person listed reflect on a lack of like a value of like initiative and doing something concretely to work towards the goal that he has. Whereas I feel like in the conversation about this woman, there's not enough information to form a sort of cohesive like opinion of what exactly her vice is, other than being irritating. Would you say that that's like, you can't say that she is necessarily neglecting her responsibilities, or that she is unloving or unkind, like, right? Like, those are, you can't draw those kinds of conclusions. I guess Matt Walsh thinks he can. But I think that would be the main difference that I see between these two examples.
Has anyone heard from Matt Walsh's wife? Is she still alive? If we haven't heard from her, I mean, there's something wrong, right?
She's busy doing laundry.
Yeah.
I wonder if they only have one car, like Steven Crowder.
Oh yeah.
Walk the dogs. Just walk the dogs. That's all you had to do.
That doesn't work either.
Oh
Yeah. And doesn't that, I mean, now you're reading the articles of like, this is what Lauren Southern, right? So she came out.
I
Sorry.
never liked her. I never liked Lauren Southern.
Oh man. She comes out with the tread life is not possible because I failed at it. Like, all right. First of all, traditional in what sense? Like,
yeah.
Come on now. Also, I want to believe secret love child with destiny, just because it would be hilarious if true.
Is that your theory that the kid is actually Destiny's?
I don't want it to be true, but for the purposes of fiction, absolutely.
I never heard that that theory, but that would be really interesting if it was.
Yeah.
Who else? There was some other conspiracy like that. Like it was people were saying that Jordan Peterson's daughter hooked up with Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, his hand was on her leg.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure
There was definitely some
And was on a lot of
hanky-panky
people's
there.
leg.
Yeah.
I like the conspiracy theory that he's actually gay, and we're just waiting for the time.
Oh, Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably something to that.
Because he was the one chatting with the men in the live chat for his OnlyFans girls that he kept under lock and key.
Oh, he was the fluffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the chat bot.
Oh, jeez. I can't imagine why. Like, I don't know. Even if it made you rich, I just can't imagine that lifestyle. Like, it just seems so terrible.
It's because we're all picturing the end of Lord of the Rings, where Sam and wife and children are just sitting there, quiet and comfortable, all clean, no need to climb a volcano anymore. We're just all signed on relief. That's literally like, I don't need any of that, because like, it's why I could never cheat on my wife. First of all, madly in love, it's all good there, but also, man, that just seems like there's too many things to remember, and
Yeah.
I'm really lazy when it comes to that. Man, if I'm gonna cheat, it would just be like, all right, I'm done here.
It's just
Like,
way too much work.
I would Shogun it out and just walk out. And
Yeah.
but that seems like, what the paperwork involved. Oh, just no, thank you. What do you do with taxes at that point in time?
The paperwork. Yeah.
So Sam moved into Bag End, right?
Yeah, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up until that point, there was one child that had ever lived there. Bilbo.
Yeah.
Like that beautiful house.
Just destroy.
Just destroyed.
Well,
You
it's
didn't know it.
it was Frodo's aunt, right? That, or cousin, that like moved into it after they wanted all the
Oh,
to
yeah,
find
yeah.
to find the treasure, because they didn't know that Bilbo had already spent it all.
That's true. So maybe it was sort of pre-destroyed.
Yeah,
Maybe,
well, and like Merry and Pip were taking all the good wine out. Just happened to be before the move out day.
maybe Sam spent most of his free time as mayor tinkering, trying to fix up the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to get the spoons back, after.
Filling in holes.
Yeah. I just love how there is property rights, but in case you've been gone for your house for too long, like for hobbits, that's like, all right, on week 1, it wasn't even like, it probably wasn't even a full 7 days. It's like,
Oh,
anyone
no.
seen Frodo? All right, I call his tea set. That's mine. And it all comes back to Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wonder if it was like, because the Tooks would go on adventures occasionally. You have
How
to
they
wonder if
drowned.
there was some like precedent for like, okay, they're not coming back. Right? Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like the thing for Frodo was like, oh, did you hear his parents drowned? They were on a boat. It was like, I mean, doesn't that happen to some people? It's like, oh, well, they shouldn't have been on a boat. Like, it was such a weird thing to even traverse on non-flat ground for them.
That's what happens. That's what you get.
Yeah. So like, probably Sam PTSD. Like, I saw my friend's finger get bitten off by this former hobbit too, and there was a Dark Lord and ring and fire, and there's no like, the bar wench is not like listening to him going, things are tough all over.
Should we call it?
Yeah, I think we better call it. Almost time for bed here.
Read
yeah.
Hobbit, or read Lord of the Rings. Don't read Great Gatsby. Watch Twilight, the first one.
Yep.
Don't subscribe to the Daily Wire, and stop watching TikTok, you communist.
Well, I mean, TikTok's gonna be banned here pretty soon anyway, so
yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. And let us know in the comments, is this, we had a good number of viewers for being a very late stream.
Yeah.
And we had fun with this. It's always enjoyable to talk to Patrick. So let us know if you
I'm
like
glad
this.
we disagreed some too.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Makes it interesting.
Let us know if you like this content. And, we're most active on Twitter. So if you find some silly thing like this that you would like our wisdom on, and for us to spend way too much time talking about, let us know, and we can look into it
Pontificate.
more. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Doug Wise says it was fun. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you joining in on our streams. It's fun.
Yeah.
To have somebody there watching.
It's fun to have Spencer tune in as well.
Yeah.
Says David's cool. I think so.
She has to say that sitting next to him.
Yeah, he's twisting my arm.
And I would definitely like to join you guys on the podcast sometime. So
yeah.
Katie said good things about it. So anytime.
And he also suggests that we should do a podcast about Am I the Asshole?
Yeah, that could be something that we do. Like I see a lot of these kind of things, not necessarily Am I the Asshole, but general like Reddit stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We could definitely do a show occasionally where I bookmark a whole bunch of them and we talk through them and
that'd be fun.
Laugh at the people, try to take a vote on whether it's actually a true story or just made up. Some of them some of them are like that. There's a couple of them the other week that everybody was just saying that it's like somebody's creative writing project, which I think is
like how No Sleep started, where it was like, oh, these are real, where it's like, no, these are just pretty decent writers now. And then
yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had fun. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah.
And everybody have a great night.
See ya.